Today I'm choosing and cutting down my papers to prep for Kendra's Card Challenge 23. Hey, it's Beth and welcome to Kendra's Card Challenge 23. It's the start of a new quarter, and so we have a whole new challenge ahead of us. This is the third quarter of 2026, so Challenge 23 runs from July through September of 2026. And this is a free challenge. The PDF workbook is free to download. You just need to sign up for a free Patreon account on Kendra's website. So if you go to the link in the description box below or kendrascardchallenges.com, you can find information on how to get your free workbook. But basically the challenge, if you are new, helps you take 6 6x6 sheets of pattern paper and cut them down to make 15 cards. So this is something that Cards by Kendra puts together every quarter. And for the workbook, you get a supply list. You have QR codes here that will help you enter for the chance to win prizes. You scan these QR codes, like there's one for each month of the challenge. You scan the code for the month you're in, and you can upload a photo of all 15, like a set of all 15 of your cards in one photo, and have a chance to win some prizes. We have the cutting guides for our 6x6 sheets of pattern paper, instructions, and then we have our 15 sketches to help us put our cards together. And then on the back page, we have a chart that tells us which papers are on which sketches. So if you need to do some, I kind of use this to help me figure out which papers I have with which of the assigned letters for the cutting guides. We'll kind of go into that more in a minute. And then we have Kendra's Patreon membership information on this side. So she has a Patreon membership program. The PDF is free. So like you sign up for a free Patreon account that gives you access to the PDF. If you would like to support her further for all of the hard work that she does in creating these challenges for us every quarter, she does have several tiers and a lot of great benefits. Some of the most fun benefits are varying size card kits that she sends you, and then access to archived challenges. So those are really amazing. But I know there's a lot of work that goes into this every quarter, and I really appreciate all she does. So if you would like to support her for that, you can definitely sign up for a paid membership. So this is a hop, and so each of us are going to be walking you through a card that, we're going to be walking you through all 15 of the card sketches today. So each person is in the hop is assigned 1 or 2 cards, and they will show you kind of how they put theirs together and give you some inspiration. So if you follow along through the whole hop, you'll get inspiration for the whole set of 15 cards. Today, I am also going to be walking you through the cutting guide. I'm going to be sharing with you how I choose my 6 pattern papers, and then how I get them cut down so that they are ready to be used for the challenge. So let's go ahead and we'll jump into that. I am using the Christmas Critters pad from Not Too Shabby Shop. I also have the Christmas Critter Basic. So the Christmas Critters pad has just a lot of fun, cute images with obviously the Christmas critters. And then the Critter Basics is just more of some of your kind of basic Christmassy patterns, as well as some solids. So I will probably be choosing a mix of papers from both of these for my challenge, because I am doing Christmas in July. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get our papers picked out and get them cut down. Okay, I went through the pads. I didn't show you me flipping through the pads several times trying to pick out the patterns that I liked. But I do want to show you that I picked 3 patterns from each of the pads. So these are all double-sided. So I do have options once I get them cut down. But now that I have the 6 sheets that I know I want to use, the first thing I do is look at the cutting guides and kind of reference the size of the pieces that are in each cutting guide, because you can see in this one you have a bunch of really thin strips. Here in the sketch in cutting guide B, you have some larger pieces. Both C and D have a mix of large and smaller. I guess I do E and F, but F has like maybe the most consistent large pieces. So the reason that that's important to me is that on a couple of these, if you look at the back side, like this, these are kind of larger image, like larger character images. So if I were to use this one on A, you wouldn't really get to see much of each of the characters. Even the other side of that one, they're kind of large. Now this one's a little bit smaller. It might work okay. But to me, A would be a really good candidate for one of these, one of the basics patterns. Since it's stripes, I probably don't want to use the stripes. Maybe the stars would be really good for A. So I will kind of set that up here. B, I might trade this one because these are small enough and there's only a couple of smaller pieces. Then I might go C and D. I don't know if it really matters because they're kind of, although this looks like it might be more of a matting, so I might change these two since this has like a more distinct background than the little swirls. And then I guess E and F. So here then is what I have so far for my sheets. I have A, B, C, D, E, and F. So now that I have kind of the starting point of where I think each of the patterns should be assigned, I am going to come to this chart back here that shows you the cutting guides across the top. And then all of the card numbers down along this left-hand side. And I'm going to see which patterns or which sheets are going to be used together on which sketch. Because I don't know that I would want to have these two be the only two patterns on one of the cards. Like I would want to kind of break it up with one of these more basic patterns. I don't want like just image patterns on the card, if that makes any sense at all. So we look at the chart. So sketches 1 and 2 only use A. So that might be something I might want to switch. So sketches 1 and 2. I don't know, we'll think about that one. Sketch 3 uses all 6 patterns. Sketch 4 only uses A. 5 uses A, B, C, D, and E, so that's fine. 6 uses B and C, that's a good combo. 7 uses only B. 8 uses D and E, that's a good combo. 9 uses B, C, D, E, F. 10 uses A, B, C, D, E. 11 is A, C, D, and E. 12 is C, D, and E. 13, is these two. There are 2 cards that use these two. So 13 and 14. And then 15 uses B and C, E and F. So based on this chart, I might actually swap A and B so that if A is the only pattern on the first 2 cards, at least it's a little bit bolder pattern and I have more opportunities, like of colors of cardstock that I can mix in with it. And then 13 and 14 are E and F. So I might go back to my cutting guides here. Okay, so C and E have kind of similar, so I might just swap out these two. So then I'm going to check my chart again. Is there anything that just used A and C? No. So that's good. Okay. So you can see that what I chose, the kind of the letters of the cutting guides I assigned my papers based off the cutting guides alone was a little bit different than what they are now that I've also referenced this chart. So this is how it's going to be: A, B, C, D, E, and F. Now that I have that all figured out, I can go and get them all cut down. One thing that I do when I cut down my pattern papers is I have kind of keep this together so that it's ready for me every time I do this challenge. But I have envelopes, like, or paper bags, not paper bags, plastic bags, or like sleeves that are all numbered. And as I cut down each of the pattern papers, I put the pieces into the bag with the number of sketch that it goes with. So you'll see that here in a bit, but I did want to touch on that because it is a great way to keep yourself organized. Our next step is to work our way through the cutting guides, starting with the cutting guide A. Kendra gives you a little scissor icon that tells you the best place to start your cut for that cutting guide, and it's usually like a place that cuts all the way through the paper. So once I have cut where the scissor mark is, I look for the next line that cuts like all the way through, and then kind of work my way through the cutting guide that way. And I'm pointing out to you like where I'm cutting as I'm cutting, and then after I cut my pieces, I do lay them kind of back in the order of the cutting guide, like kind of off to the right there, and that will just help me once I get everything cut down to get them in the appropriately numbered baggies for the card sketches later on. For Kendra's card challenges, it is like very important to be organized. So I use these baggies. They help me a lot. And now you can see I'm going through each of the pieces has a number assigned to it. And so I'm just using the cutting guide, like referencing that and pulling from my little recreated recreated guide there at the bottom and putting the papers in the appropriate baggies. But you don't have to use baggies. You could use envelopes. If you have the space on your table, you could have numbered piles. Whatever works best for you. It's just very important to stay organized so that when you come back to assemble the cards later, you don't have to like hunt or worry about pieces getting in the wrong place. If you are not using double-sided paper, something you could also do is put the sketch number on the back side of the piece. That's something to think about as well, but it's just, the trick is finding what method works best for you. On cutting guide B, I'm working through it the same way I did with A. I started with that scissor mark line, and then I'm working my way through to each next line that cuts all the way through. This particular one has a circle that you're supposed to cut from the strip, and a 1-inch circle. I actually have a 1-inch punch, and so I'm just using that to punch out the circle. And if I'm using a punch, I do like to do that before I cut down the rest of the strip so I have something to hold on to. Now that everything is cut, I can put them in the appropriate baggies. If you are going through the cutting guides, like this set of cutting guides does have a lot of circles that are part of the cutting guide. You can use punches, dies. If you don't have either of those, you can trace something that's about that size and then hand cut it out. And worst case, if you're not, you don't have the punches or the dies, you're not comfortable with fussy cutting, you can just leave them square and make that work for you. There is flexibility within, the sketches, and I'll kind of touch on that here a little bit later. But if you don't have a way to do the circles, then just leave them as squares and still cut the squares in half, and just follow the rest of the measurements that she has on there. So on C, the bottommost circle called for a 3/4 inch circle, and so I used my 3/4 inch punch. And because this strip was not wide enough for my 1 inch circle punch, I did go ahead and do the 3/4 inch circle on the top one as well. So something else to note, depending on how generous you are with your cuts each time, sometimes when you get down to where you're supposed to, have the shape of the circle cut out, there are times where I know I don't have the full, or maybe it is 1 inch, exactly, but my 1 inch circle punch and my 1 inch die is still kind of hang over the edge of that strip. I just go down a size and make that work for me. So that's something that you can think about as well. If cutting all 6x6, all 6 sheets of 6x6 at one time is intimidating or seems overwhelming to you, or maybe you don't need all 15 cards made at one time, you can just make one card at a time. So each of the card sketches has measurements on it so that you can cut down just the pieces you need for that particular card. So that is a way to kind of make the challenge work for you as well. You can kind of just do one card at a time and work your way through the 15 sketches as you want to, as time allows, or just as you need the cards. So one of my questions for you today is, if you have been doing the challenges for a while, do you do all 15 cards at one time? Do you break it up into smaller batches, or do you just do one sketch at a time? Let me know how you do it in the comments below. I tend to, do it all at one time. I cut everything down that I need, and then once I do it a lot of times I'll do it in phases. I'll cut all my papers down. I'll have all the pieces in the baggies, and then I will come back at another time, use the sketches to cut the matting layers and figure out my sentiment and embellishments, and then have those all in the baggies ready to go. And then I'll come back at some point and just sit down and enjoy the assembly process. That's always my favorite part, is just putting the cards together. So if you would like, there are some extra guides that can be purchased. So there's a matting layers guide that you can purchase that helps you just take a set number of sheets of cardstock and cut down all of your matting layers at one time. Very similar to what we do with the 6x6 paper. That is a guide that is for sale on Kendra's site. There's also an SVG file that you can use to cut down your papers if you don't want to have to do it manually and you have a cutter that would do that for you. That is a file that is available for purchase as well. So you can check out Kendra's site for that. So there are options, again, to help you make the challenge, work for you. And something I forgot to mention, on the very last page of the PDF, there is a column that is for sponsors, and each quarter's challenge has a set of prize sponsors who are, wonderfully kind and generous companies who have donated product or gift cards for prizes for all of the opportunities to win. And, without them, we wouldn't necessarily be able to do all the giveaways that we do. So we appreciate all of our sponsors, and some of them have been with Kendra's Card Challenge for a really long time. So a huge shout out to the wonderful sponsors. But we talked about how you can upload a set of all 15 cards on the InLinkz party using the codes on the very front of the PDF. So that is one way to win. You can also have an opportunity to win like individual cards being part of the showcase if you upload to the Facebook group, which is also, that information is on the PDF as well. And then today is the giveaway hop, and so there's a form in the description box that you can fill out and have a chance to win as well. And so each video that you watch throughout this hop, you can fill out that video's form and have multiple chances to win the big prize bundle. And so I will be giving you a passphrase here in a little bit that you will enter onto my form. And then as you watch each video, you'll get a different passphrase, and you'll just need to enter that passphrase on that video's form, you know, and continue on and have lots of chances to win today's prize. So on Cutting Guide F here, we actually have some larger circles. There's 1 3/4 inch and a 2 inch. And so I have these punches as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and punch these. I just find if it's a size that I have the punches, these are the EK Success punches, and I have them pretty much every size up to 2 1/4 for the circles. And so I just find it easier than having to get up and, you know, go to my die cutting machine, which is across the room every time. So if I can use the punches, I do. So now we have everything, all of our pattern paper cut and ready to go. I am assembling sketch 1 with you today. And again, if you follow along through the hop, you can see all 15 sketches put together. So for my matting layers, I decided to go with a green cardstock for the back matting layer. And then for the smaller one, I'm using some like a sheet of white cardstock that I embossed with a star pattern using an embossing folder. So if you're looking at sketch 1, you can see that there's some gray, white, and black areas on the card sketch. Those areas, they have measurements, but they do not have a letter assigned to them. And so that means that they are free choice. You can use whatever you want, you know, additional pattern paper, cardstock, specialty paper, whatever, or leave them out. Again, you can make the sketch kind of work for you, but it's just that those are free choice if they don't have a cutting guide letter. So here for these strips, I'm going to kind of use one of the strips as a spacer to help me align up, kind of get even spacing in between all of my strips. And so this last one, since I didn't have a strip left, I just kind of laid that strip down upside down, marked with my finger where it was going to end, and then put the strip down where my finger was. And so that kind of gave me some even spacing with these strips. And then once I have them down, I just put them on white cardstock and then trimmed off all of the edges. Now that I have all of the pieces ready to go, I can go ahead and assemble my card. Since this is an embossed piece, I do want to use some heavier duty tape. I'm just using some score tape for like 2 of the outer edges, and then we'll come in with my ATG adhesive for the rest. And then for the green square, I will add a very generous amount of my Barely Art wet glue to the back of it to help ensure that it is going to stay in place as well. But for now, I am pulling in an ephemera piece from the ephemera set to go in the center of that square. And then I originally pulled out a stamp from a Stamp Supply stamp set, and I chose it because of the font is kind of like whimsical and went with the cute little characters. So I stamped 2 out because I figured I'm going to use it again at some point in these cards. Trimmed it down, found a green matting layer, you know, that I could use behind it, and then you'll see later on I end up not using it and going in a completely different direction. So, but now that I have these pieces figured out, I can go ahead and get these all adhered down. And while I'm doing this, I want to let you know what my passphrase is for today's video that you will need to enter into the giveaway form in the description box below. And the question that we all had to answer was, what is our favorite crafting technique? And for me, I would say that that is matting and layering. So if you want to just put matting down, I think that would suffice. So my passphrase is matting. So here you can see I realized that I didn't give myself much space for that wider or the taller stamp set. So I had to pivot and grab another stamp set with a shorter sentiment, and am going through the process of creating a matting layer for that. And I do like how that ended up looking better. So it all worked out, and I will use that matted Merry Christmas somewhere else in these cards, I'm sure. We'll trim that up. Do you guys have a favorite crafting technique? You know, is it embossing, ink blending, coloring? For me, paper is my jam, and so I, love to just play with paper. So that's why matting and layering works for me. So here's my final card. Be sure to check out the playlist in the description box below, as well as look for any of the links for the products and Kendra's video and how to get the PDF. Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you all have a very crafty day.